I want to start today with one verse, and of course we're going to look at some of the context, but one verse in particular, 1 Peter chapter 5, verse number 8. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Now, in my formative years of understanding the gospel, this was a verse that basically was used to describe the devil, and the devil was a character who was opposed to God. And in the Hollywood version, he had horns and a pitchfork and a little pointy tail, and he was always sitting on someone's shoulder opposite of an angel. You know, now I knew better than that. I didn't figure he was that caricature, but I did have this spiritual entity always running around trying to mess people up. This adversary, the devil. It was interesting to me how he could be everywhere all the time and how he could do all the things that he was doing. Until I began to understand there's some things about this verse that and about this character, the devil, that I want to bring out without preaching on the devil, because that's not very good news. I certainly don't want to preach on him, but I do want to show you a few things about this text. Look at the opening of the phrase, be sober and be vigilant. Now, for us, sober is not drunk, right? I mean, that's the easiest definition I know. But this is not what the Greek says, and it's not what it means. The Greek word for sober is nepho, and nepho means, and this is literally Thayer's Greek lexicon definition, calm and collected in spirit. So when Peter says be sober, he's saying be calm. It just has nothing to do with the natural. It doesn't have anything to do with your outside emotion. This is your spirit, man. Be calm and collected in your spirit. What's an example of calm and collected spirit? Well, I'll give you one in the midst of chaos. Jesus says to his disciples, let's go to the other side of the sea. And they jump in a boat and they start floating across the Sea of Galilee, and they hit a storm. And the disciples are freaking out, and they're bucketing water over the edge of the boat and trying to keep the thing afloat, and Jesus is asleep. You know the story. And they go to Jesus and say, Master, don't you even care that we're about to drown? And they go all the way to accusing Jesus of having a lack of care and concern. And they're misreading his calm and collected spirit for a lack of concern. That's how calm and collected he was. And so right in the middle of a storm, Jesus is snoozing right through it, calm and collected. And when he wakes up and calms the storm, he says to the disciples, you have little faith. And I used to really bother me. I said, why was he so hard on them for little faith? This was tough. I mean, these guys are professional fishermen. If they think it's bad, it's bad. You know, I mean, if I thought it was bad, you know, there's probably just a slight wind. But for these guys, and I go, why is he so hard on them? Well, it's because when he got in the boat, he said, let's go to the other side. If he says, let's go to the other side, where are you going to go? No matter what. I mean, I don't care if the sea opens up and there's a whirlpool in the middle. Somehow Jesus is going to jump the whirlpool. You're going to end up on the other side. And that's the kind of confidence he was trying to instill in his disciples, was to say, look, if I say we're going, we're going. It doesn't matter what adversary or accusation or problem or storm in the literal or the spiritual might hit us. Doesn't matter. We're going to make it. So I'm going to teach you how to be calm and collected. And how many of us grew up in a church society, I don't know, maybe just me, but grew up in a church society where when we heard that sermon, it was all about rebuking the storm. That was all I ever heard. You need to learn to speak to the storms of your life. You need to learn to rebuke the storms of your life. That was the secondary lesson Jesus taught. Jesus did not get in that boat intending to rebuke a storm. Jesus got in that boat intending to take a nap. The storm interrupted the nap, then he had to calm the storm. What was Jesus trying to teach the disciples? He wasn't teaching them how to calm storms. If he wanted to teach them how to calm storms, he wouldn't have went to sleep. He would have waited until the storm and said, gather around, boys. This is how you deal with adversary in your life. You face it head on, you rebuke it, you tell it where to go. No, what he was trying to show them what to do is when you hit a storm, fellas, where should you be? Resting. Calm and collected in spirit. Guys, if you'll just sleep, just take my word for it. We're going to the other side. And I've had to learn in my life, if I can take his word for it, if he said, son, here's what I want you to do, If I can just be calm and collected in spirit, it doesn't matter what adversary, what devil, what hell, what storm hits on my way to the other side, we're going to make it to the other side. And all I can do is really make things worse by freaking out about how we're going to get to the other side. Does that make sense in your life too? I mean, I know maybe I'm alone. I've been there so many times freaking out, and I should have just been calm and collected in my spirit. And we all say, well, that's easier said than done. Absolutely easier said than done. That's why the disciples are freaking out while Jesus is asleep. But Christ is our example, not Peter, James, and John. You are not disciples of the disciples. You are disciples of Christ. I think in Christianity we have played disciples of the disciples. A lot of times when we start to compare ourselves in Christianity, we always find the examples of the disciples and go, well, look at this, what they were doing, and this is how they responded. Who cares? I mean, one of them betrayed the Lord, another denied him, only one's left at the foot of the cross. Which one of those guys you want to be? Or there's Jesus who said, you go make disciples of me. Go show people how I would respond to these situations. So when we compare today, I don't want to compare the failures of man. Let's go find the successes of Jesus. And so the calm and collected spirit is not, we're not going to find that in Peter, James, and John. We're going to find that in Jesus. So that is Nepho. Nepho, the calm and collected spirit. If you want to underline or write out to the side, I never felt like my Bible was so holy that ink would mess it up. So I was just marked all over it, man, highlighted, circled, stars, neon, whatever. And underline that word sober and write in calm and collected.